Welcome to today's episode of the Declutter Hub podcast, your channel for super easy, no-nonsense advice on how to declutter and organise your home. Please welcome your hosts, professional organisers Ingrid Jansen and Lesley Spellman.
Hello and welcome listeners to episode 21 of the Declutter Hub podcast. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Lesley.
If you have clutter and want to sort it out, this is the show for you. In today's episode, Lesley and I are talking about command center organizing. Now, it's just a very grand word for the central area where whoever is involved in managing the daily and weekly routines keeps all the important stuff together. This is very often in the kitchen, but we'll discuss different options of where this command center can be and what kind of things you would find there. Now, it's a very fancy word, isn't it? Command center, but I completely get this because, there's so much going on in my house, Lesley, that I definitely have a command center. So let's talk about what it is and where it is and what is involved and what you can put there. And I think, I love it. I love a command center and it feels me very in control of things.
I think it's going to be absolutely critical, and particularly if you've got a young family. If you've got kids at school with all that comes along with that, and we all know what that is, then you need to be an organising ninja really, don't you? And to keep all that together, particularly if you're going to work as well, is a lot to deal with. And so I think it's really important to have all important stuff close by in an area that you're going to use very regularly. Mm-hmm. And so this is what some people refer to as a command centre. Now, I did have a command centre. I didn't call it a command centre. I called it a notice board. But anyway, I did have a command centre when my kids were younger. But now it's different. I'm in my office. That's my kind of hub of the home, if you will. Well, it's not the hub of the home because that would be sad, wouldn't it, if it was in my office. But the hub of the home is the kitchen. But it's where I spend a lot of my time, and certainly a lot of my organisational things are in my office, and so I don't therefore need it to be in my kitchen or utility room. But certainly when my kids were younger, definitely needed that in the kitchen where the kids were all the time.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think my command center is kind of spread out in a couple of little places, but because everything is always there in the same place, it feels like although it's not one specific place, it's very close together. So part of my command center is on the door of my utility cupboard. And it's like a dodgy little door, but it's got my pin board, it's got my calendar, and right across from it there's a little area where I have my purse and the kids' backpacks and where stuff kind of lives that's in transit all the time. So although I might not have one perfect wall with perfect hooks and baskets, there is an area that I use all the time where stuff almost gets dumped, but it's the place where the daily things that we use all the time is kept at hand. So it's close at hand and you know what you're doing, what's living there, where's it going, and you can plan from that kind of onwards.
And it's the same principle as everything, that you've got to have a place for everything and then put everything back in its place. And so if you know then that that's where kids' school shoes or bags or whatever is going to go, then you've got somewhere to put it and store it, and you know where to find it. And so it's all about these weekly routines and getting things getting your family organised so that life's just a little bit less stressful than it normally is. And as we said, when you've got a young family, there's a lot of things that you have to think about every week, and a lot of things that you need in your command centre. I feel a bit of a fraud calling it a command centre. I mean, the reality of it, we were Googling, just before we started the podcast, we were sort of Googling some images of command centres, and even we're like, wow, they are incredible. So if you want to look around and be inspired, please go onto Pinterest, because there's some fab people. But these people have got full 10-foot by 7-foot walls for their command centres, and so the rest of us have not got that. It might be on the fridge, it might be on the side of a kitchen cabinet, it might be stuffed into a laundry room, it might be in your sort of vestibule porch, so lots of us have not got the space to do these ultimate kind of command centres. But the idea of this is to say, have a central place, have a pin board, and have some important things on there that you're going to need all the time.
Okay, so let's then discuss, what does a command center looks like? I agree. In my case, it has a calendar, it has a pin board, you might have a whiteboard with some magnets, there might be a couple of hooks or a basket, it might, like in my case, not be all in one place, but in 2 or 3 different places, but still the same stuff lives in the same place every day. So don't get completely overwhelmed when you see all these beautiful pictures on Pinterest, because listeners, my command center does not look like that, but it is very organized.
And I don't have a command center.
But it is all about being on top of things. So let's then discuss what kind of stuff will you find in a command center.
Oh, what would be useful? And this is going to be different for different people, really, isn't it? Depending on what makes you tick. But I think the kind of things that you would want on there. So let's break it down and say it's not a command center. It's just kind of a notice board or a pin board or a whiteboard or something like that. And that we're talking about the kind of useful information that you might have on there as a matter of course. So first of all, if you're a meal planner, I think an awful lot of people have got a meal plan for the week. And a lot of people are just writing that on a whiteboard. Monday we're going to have this, Tuesday we're going to have that, and so on. And then sort of branching off from that, then there's a grocery shopping list as well. So you can write on there when you know that things are running down and you need to get them, just to jog your memory. And also, it's not just you here. We're talking about family. So what I do now, my kids are old, so they're not going to write things down. Well, they can't write things down because I've not got a command centre. But if I did, so mine's always like, right, okay, I'm going shopping. What does everybody need? And mine's done more on a family WhatsApp group than it is on a, but that my kids are in their 20s, and it's different thing. So, so I think meal planning is definitely going to be on there. Shopping list is going to be on there. I think it's really important to get a grip of kids' activities, after school clubs, that kind of thing, and a kind of family calendar so you know who has to be where at what time. Yeah, definitely. I also have a class list with a list of names of my kids' classmates. So I have that at hand. I've got a list with the holidays, the school holidays, so I know it's in my calendar, it's in my diary, but I also have it printed out and I've got it pinned to my board. It's just an easy reminder, isn't it? Because it's in a really easily accessible place. And again, we talk all the time on this podcast about barriers, and it's not a barrier getting your phone out and checking it and and all that kind of stuff. So it's just there. And anybody can refer to it. And I think it's important to know that everybody can use that command center then as well. Everyone can refer to it. It's not just you. I've got a pen there, so I can write stuff down. What else is there? There's loads of stuff there. My letter from the council when they collect the recycling and the rubbish. Like the weekly dates. Exactly. That's really important, isn't it? Because it's complex. And normally I've got the date that the books need to be returned to the library. I get a little printout, a tiny little printout from when the returning date of the books is. So that's on my pin board. I think useful phone numbers as well. Emergency numbers, doctors' numbers, things like that. People tend to write those on the whiteboard. So it doesn't have to be everything, and there's going to be different things for different people that sort of make them tick. I mean, quite often when I'm working with older clients that need to jog their memories with things, we have all the useful emergency numbers that they've got, and so write all those down as well on a command centre. Also, an appointment letter for hospital appointment, or the orthodontist or the dentist, or you get these little cards when they write when your next appointment is. And of course I put that on my calendar, but I also keep the little card to the side in case I written it down wrong, or it can happen. We're all people, so I always want to keep that little thing, the little card there until we've had the appointment, and then it's getting shredded or recycled and taken off my pin board. I think people also sometimes put letters from schools, useful information from school that comes back. And things like that. Some people will put inspiration. So if they cut something out of a magazine that they love, that they want to look out for when they're shopping or something like that, those kind of things can go on there. I think one thing, so we're talking about a lot of things here. So the one thing that I do want to say is your command centre, pin board, notice board, whatever that might be, needs to not be overwhelmed with tons and tons of stuff. Otherwise the stuff that's on there will no longer be important and something that you'll and can't serve anymore as a visual reminder. So you need to make sure that it's quite organised and as clutter free as possible, and that all the information on there is relevant, up to date, and current. So don't be sticking 27 pieces of artwork from your kids or off the top of your meal plan and things like that, and don't have a meal plan from 4 weeks ago and things like that. So it's got to be, any system is only as good as the information that you put on it. And so it has to be. So like everything else, you have to declutter your command centre every week as well.
Yeah. I think that's really, really true. And, you know, besides having that pin board or notice board, I think the next step is to talk about kind of the area where I collect stuff. So for example, in my house, my kids' shoes and their coats live at the front door. When they come in, they take their shoes off, they hang up their coat, and then they walk into the kitchen, and that's where the lunch boxes go and the backpacks go, and where my purse goes, and where my charger of my phone is, where you might want to think about getting a hook where you can put your keys if you're forever losing your keys. Maybe somewhere close to your command center can be a hook where you put your keys on. So that's kind of my place where things gather.
So almost like, I think, like a sort of launching station. It sounds like some kind of a crazy moon landing type thing, doesn't it? We've got a command centre and a launching station. But what it is, you know, the command centre is where everything's happening and you're keeping control of everything. Yeah. And the launching station is, right, what do I need to get my day off to a great start? Yeah. And so, you know, for me, when the kids were younger, you know, I would make sure that things like shin pads were there. I would make sure that swimming kits were there, because I didn't, you know, the last thing you need at 8:25 in the morning when you're about to go out to school is trying to find a pair of shin pads for football practice that night. So things like that would go there. Yeah. But again, if you're going to put kids' shoes or school shoes and stuff like that there, don't have all their shoes together. It needs to be just the important ones, if possible, you know, if space allows. And it's always if space allows. Yeah.
And I think for me, what I also use my launching station for is to put a stack of batteries that I want to put back in a recycling bin in the local supermarket. That's where the books that need to be returned to the library go. That's where a pair of shoes that needs to go to the cobbler's lives until I can bring them.
Maybe some bags for life that you take out with you when you go shopping. Yeah,
it's all in that same
You just need so you can grab it and go. Yeah. It's a kind of grab and go section, isn't it, really? Yeah. So, it's really, really important that you've got that in your home. Yeah. These things, you know, we should do a challenge people, you know, how long does it take you to find all these things in a morning? They need to be central, and that's what's really stressful. I mean, you know, I don't have that anymore because my kids are not that young, but you know, I remember that time. It's so stressful in the morning when you're trying to get your kids out of school and get them fed and get them there on time, and somebody's stressful. So the more you can do to organise that, the better.
Yeah, I could not agree more. So think about indeed the location in your home. Is it maybe you always come in through the back door? Maybe you need to have something in the back door. Maybe you've got a utility room, or maybe it's the hallway or the kitchen. You know, you don't want to have it upstairs in your spare bedroom. That does not make sense. It needs to be close to a front or back door, or the place that you come in and out all the time. That's where all of this kind of stuff needs to live, I think.
Yeah, the place of most traffic, really, isn't it? And clutter-free, certainly. It needs to be decluttered in the same way as everything else is decluttered.
Yeah. Well, listeners, I think that's it for this episode. And we hope you've all enjoyed listening and are inspired to take actions. Do you have a command center in your home? Are you now thinking, after listening to this episode, I actually need to create one, or mine is a bit messy and I need to do some work on it? We have lots of checklists that are useful for your command center on our Declutter Hub website, like a daily and weekly cleaning list, a daily planner and to-do list, a seasonal cleaning list, and a weekly meal planning checklist. Have a look on Instagram and Pinterest for inspiration, and of course, feel free to share your photos on our Declutter Hub community on Facebook. So thanks for taking the time to listen today. If you'd like to get more tips and advice, please follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and have a lively supportive Facebook group community where we chat all things clutter. We'd love to see you there. If you don't want to miss the next weekly episode, subscribe to the Declutter Hub podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, and it will pop into your notifications each Friday. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Declutter Hub podcast. Check out declutterhub.com for more inspiration, and don't forget to tune in next week.